Good morning. I'm Halie LeSavage, the retail writer at Morning Brew, and as it was just stated, I'm joined this morning by Seth Goldman, CEO of UrbanStem, Daniel Head, Director of Digital Marketing at Tom's, and Daria Lupinacci, SVP of Marketing at AUrate. So over the next 20 minutes, we're going to be discussing how these impressive retail leaders here use customer lifetime value to drive their business strategy and think about the best practices that they've implemented to really bring customers back again and again to their businesses. So I want to start off with Daria. Can you tell the audience a bit about your work at AUrate and how you are using CLV to inform the practices you're using across your business?
Sure. Oh, good. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. So who here have heard about AUrate? Okay, good. There is some recognition. So if you haven't heard about us, check us out online. So we are a direct-to-consumer fine jewelry brand. We were founded about 4 years ago, and our goal is basically revolutionize the fine jewelry market for women and for men who buy presents for women. I mean, our whole motto is our woman doesn't need a man to buy jewelry for herself. No disrespect to men. So it's a really big week for us, funny enough. We're completely redoing our site. We're relaunching it next week, so check it out next week as well. We're launching our first out-of-home campaign also next Monday, and we're opening 2 new stores next Thursday. So yeah, busy stuff. And my overall background is I spent some time at Amazon, and customer centricity is somewhat ingrained in my personality and my business acumen. So when I joined AUrate about 2.5 years ago when we just closed the seed round, and I basically started talking about customer all the time. It was like, we have to look at it from customer's perspective. And then Amazon, we were always like, customer experience, customer experience, customer experience. So it's essentially just like a mantra for us. Everything we do, we try to create a customer value out of it. It's in every channel, in every piece of copy we put on the site, in an email, every action we take, every content we send out. For us, it's what does customer get out of it, and what do we want to say? How's our POV as a company translates into customer experience with our brand?
And Seth, to start talking about UrbanStem a little bit, you have a really interesting business structure in that there's a subscription side of your business, but there's also opportunities for ad hoc purchases. So how do you think about bringing those two channels together to drive CLV at UrbanStem?
Sure. How many people have heard of UrbanStem? Oh, okay, great.
Much bigger group.
We'll teach you about that. So UrbanStem is a leader in trying to revolutionize the floral space and make what should be a very simple transaction for the customer as simple as it should be. And we've been around for about 5 years. And as you mentioned, we have a subscription business, which is small, and we do most of our business as sort of a la carte, ad hoc. So I think when we talk about CLV and lifetime value, the first thing that we do is start with the basics. What is our data structure? What are we trying to measure? So for example, 2 simple things, we're trying to look at what percentage of our customers are coming back and what is the frequency with which they are coming back. From there, you can start to dive into specific metrics you might be interested in. What are customers who are doing more than $100 per transaction doing? What are customers who are super users driving 5 or more transactions, say, per year doing? And then as we think about subscription, I think we approach it 2 different ways. So first, we can be a data first or data driving the rest of the conversation. What I mean by that is we can look at our database, look at the way customers are currently purchasing our products, and try to identify customers who would be a good fit for subscription and just move them in there. The advantage of that is that we can use our own data. You can take revealed preference, and we can probably quickly run some tests to move people in there. I'd say the disadvantage of just starting with the data in that respect is that you're largely going to get what I'd say are incremental changes. Not always, but we might move a small segment in. The second way is to start with the customer first and say, well, why would anyone buy a flower subscription in the first place? And start to talk to our customers, whether that's one-on-one surveys on the phone or a mass survey, and get data back from them to actually start to craft the product and service offering with them to try to move maybe a whole new group of customers into that who weren't considering it beforehand. For example, what we're finding is that customers aren't even using subscription often to send themselves. That's still sent as a gift. We are mainly a gifting program. So we may need to make it much easier for you as the customer to have different addresses to send each of your monthly subscription deliveries to, rather than it's always going to the same place. Like Amazon, you're always sending to the exact same place, and we might have to collect 12 addresses for 12 different deliveries. So how are we building the product with the customer in order to make a step function change? So the advantage of building it this way is that we can make that step function change. The disadvantage is sometimes the customers don't know what they want, or their stated and revealed preferences can be quite different. So you build something and they don't actually come along for the ride.
And we'll be getting into those discrepancies between the data that you can pull and what customers tell you in just a little bit. But first, Daniel, I'm sure a lot of people in the room know what Tom's is, but I do want you to, lay out your role in the business for the audience and talk to us a bit about sharing insights like CLV within your organization. How crucial has that been to Tom's strategy, particularly with regards to digital, since that's your area of expertise?
Yeah, it's been extremely crucial, especially over the last 3 to 5 years. So I started at Tom's 7 years ago. The company's 13 years old. So I've been there for about half the company's history. The biggest change, I think, over that amount of time has been, we started in 2006. So it was before the big D2C wave of a lot of the D2C cool brands that are out now. But our first purchase wasn't the website at the time, so that was kind of in 2006. That was a weird thing. D2C has been ingrained in the culture early on. Customer acquisition tactics were ingrained in the culture early on. So we've always had this major database of people, but I think for the first half, we didn't really know what to do with it well. And then we had to learn to do that over time.
Sounds like a good problem.
Having customers is a good place to start, right? And then knowing how to speak to them more one-on-one, how to work with that data in a more nuanced way. I'm sure everyone in the room agrees is the only way to get the job done right and efficiently. So we went into brick and mortar after 2012. Abbott Kinney store opened in Venice, and we just opened up a store a few months ago in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. So it's still a growing strategy as well. We had to start segmenting our data well because we have this incredible story. We have this incredible inspirational founder. He's on TV all the time. People really emotionally connect with our story and our products. But if we didn't start breaking that down in the right way, it was kind of too much to everyone at the same time. And it turns out we had these personas, we had these customer groups. I agree with what the speakers this morning both kind of said of the age of who is our customer, what does she wear, where else does she shop, is kind of over. I think especially marketing technology has just democratized so much how to find a broad base of customers. The customer's telling you who they are, you're not really trying to tell yourself who they are anymore. So we had to kind of teach the D2C organization to think CLV and think customer persona in a way. So we use Castora to help us identify 5 or 6 clear customer types. And we make sure, especially our online merchandising team, digital marketing teams, are organizing themselves around those personas very, very clearly. So when I started, we had 5 shoes and like 1 way we were giving back. Now we have 2,000 different shoes on the website, and we're giving back in 6 to 8 kind of different philanthropic ways now. So the way customers are starting their journey with Tom's and how they're coming in on the acquisition side, and then how they purchase kind of diversified itself in ways we had to keep up with really quickly. And that came down to defining 5 or 6 clear types of people that we're speaking to and we're measuring individually.
And I'm sure within the types of people in your customer base for all 3 of your businesses, there are some vocal customers. Customer feedback is really so readily available, especially with your social media presences. I'm curious to know, when there is a discrepancy between what you hear from your customers, positive or negative, between what they're saying to you and the data that you have available across all of these different touch points, how do you reconcile those 2 different responses or understandings of your business? And really, how do you balance those insights? Daria, we can start with you and move down the line.
So for us, for me specifically, like I've been taught in my past experiences in a business school that don't really trust the data that easy, especially if it's too good to be true. So I'm kind of always skeptical in a way to like try to see just beyond numbers, like what story is telling the data telling us. In general, in AUrate, we because we are really still a very much early stage startup, we collect qualitative and quantitative data, and we talk to our customers. We get regular feedback. I also manage customer service team, and they actually, our head of customer experience, funny enough, she comes out of retail. We actually started in reverse. We are digital first, but we actually were retail first in reality. So our employees who were in the company the longest is our retail leads from our store in Madison, our pop-ups in Hampton. So they actually know personally some of our VIP customers, and they get regular feedback. Sometimes customers call them. So we constantly have this like direct line with our customers and get feedback from them. And we also instituted like breakfast with a founder, you know, like we write them and ask them like, would you like to spend a couple of minutes with us on a call, or like meet us for breakfast to talk to us about like what do you think about like past year or new products and things like that. So we're always trying to reconcile like the hard data and the live feedback from our customers.
I think it comes down to looking at the qualifiable feedback consistently. So it's a lot easier to identify flash in the pan, freakouts one customer might have. I think probably about 4 years ago, we started having our customer service leads, the senior leads really sit at the table with the marketing executives as well on a really frequent basis to look at the marketing data with us, and then also present what the survey style feedback or just the common themes were happening at the call center or on chat were saying. And at first, for sure, there was a learning curve. People wanted to jump at whatever thing that week seemed like a problem. I think over time, you have to grow a culture of knowing how to do things in a balanced perspective where you're not just following the data because it's going to be a forest for the trees scenario. And you're not just freaking out because one customer said one thing we have to do today. And then getting that balance correct, it's a cultural thing. Has led to a lot of big wins, but we had to learn to bring it all together in the way that worked for where the business was headed.
Daniel stole my answer. So, but I think the one thing I'll add is I began my e-commerce career at a company called Quidsy, and one of our cultural values there was peel back the onion. So, and I love that one. It's very visual. And what I think I get out of it is when the data might not be matching with something else, it's about peeling and looking at the data beneath the surface. And for example, we saw what our return on ad spend was on Google, and on the surface it looked good, but when we start to dive beneath the surface, we saw that our spend on branded on our own terms were great, and then our spend on non-branded was a disaster. So it actually wasn't good, but if you didn't peel back the onion, you wouldn't get there. So I think for CLV, it's sort of the same thing. You might see something on the surface which is either great or not so great, or a customer says something. It's how are you taking that and seeing what segment of the customers actually makes sense for or not make sense for. So it's sort of I think be skeptical is right, but also trust your instincts and force yourself to do the work. That's the good, hard intellectual work to really look at not just the superficial level data, but to dive a lot more deeply.
Just one more note, if I may. We also, in retail, we collect daily feedback from retail leads. And right now we have, well, opening 2, so we have 4 stores essentially. So we all read these daily briefs every day. And the customer gives us feedback on what products they want and what products they like. So we triangulate it with sales data and see like what's trending up. And we develop new products based on their feedback, basically. It's like, I want that, but with this. Oh, okay. So you get like 4 or 5 these feedbacks. You start thinking, okay, they might be good like bestsellers coming in there.
Has any of the feedback within that part of your business surprised you at all? Have any products kind of bubbled to the top that have been particularly interesting?
It depends, you know, because our customer is very versatile. Like we have Madison Avenue customer, we have like customers from all over US. We have a younger customer too who is just aspired to buy a first, you know, piece of jewelry. So we always like slicing the feedback essentially. Like some products resonate better with the younger customer, some products resonate better with the older customer and more with a higher disposable income. So sometimes the one product just like, like we just launched the larger chains, which are like a very fashionable piece, but it's sold well, better than I expected. And our co-founder was like, "You see, I told you they're going to sell really well." I was like, okay.
So now that we have the data across these different touch points and you have your customer feedback, how do you bring those things together to go a level deeper and turn that into action that drives CLV? And Daniel, you can start.
Sure. I think for Tom specifically, every time we stray too far from our mission or our story, it's not good for any part of the business. And every time we stray too far from products people care about, it's also not good for acquisition, retention, you name it. So we have to always do a job of keeping ourselves really, really, really honest and doing both well. And then at the same time, there's kind of an expectation that Tom's is pushing the forefront of things, and we hold ourselves accountable to that too. It's what made the company happen, was bringing this great new idea of what a company could be and an ethos a company could carry. So if we forget that, we see that CLV stuff drop off. We see the acquisition numbers drop off. So for us, we have to use some kind of implicit bias as we're shaping new marketing campaigns, as we're thinking about new products. But again, definitely coming back to the idea of democratizing that data has helped enormously. So as an example, he couldn't come today, but we have a really, really smart analytics guy on our team who's our main Custoria user. He's created very simple ways for people around the organization to look at our CLV reports over time, analyzing the events that led to that second or third purchase based on kind of when they came into the company. A good example there would be this exact time last year, our founder went on TV on Jimmy Fallon and told everyone we were going to evolve our giving model, which we did. And last year, we launched an enormous campaign to urge Congress to pass universal background checks for, they had a vote coming up in Q1 of this year, January, February. He felt extremely passionate about this concept. It was right after the Borderline Grill shooting in Thousand Oaks, California. It was something that scared us tremendously inside. And we said, okay, Blake, we're getting a lot of new customers this holiday season. How do we speak to these people now? We've done one-for-one shoe giving, and we give eyesight with our eyewear, we give safe water with our coffee. We're not really well prepared to do this. And just like everything at Tom's, like, we'll learn as we go. And we said, at this point in our company's career, we have a much better grasp on customer data, at least. And we're much better prepared to pivot when things aren't going well and react. So during that period, we gained hundreds and thousands of new customers who specifically came in through either that day or week when we were really doing a lot of media around the idea. And then we launched a lot of media online to acquire new people around this concept. We were sending, we had a widget on the front page of our website, which allowed customers to fill out a postcard with their zip code and opt in for marketing communications as well. And then we sent hundreds of thousands of postcards to Congress people saying these customers stand with Tom's. So now we have all this new marketing identification data. What do you do with it? We speak to those customers still in an extraordinarily specific way a year later. We hold ourselves liable to that of, these customers joined us for a reason. We're going to watch their purchase behavior really carefully, but we have to remember why they joined. I think if you don't remember that in the first place, why did the customer come back? You can be reading the data all the time, but the churn rates aren't going to make sense if you don't understand why they joined your brand in the first place.
And taking a step back from the customer, internally at your companies, you also need to have a great team that understands the importance of CLV, that can really bring your strategies to life. So Seth and Daria, you're in positions where you're at the top of your companies. You have a really big hand in bringing on new team members and deciding what qualities are essential to build a team that can really enforce and bolster customer loyalty. So starting with Seth, I'd love to hear from you about what you look for in hiring candidates that then translates into team members that have a really deep understanding of CLV's importance.
Sure. So for me, I actually think the qualities are the same as what the other folks on the stage might talk about. I think it's our process that we focus on a lot, which is really a deep understanding of what that role and responsibility is for that position, how we're going to grow that function in the organization, sharing that with the entire team to get their buy-in ahead of time, get them excited, allow them to ask their questions, really diving deep into the exact metrics that this person will be measured against. So for CLV especially, it's a very cross-functional position. So we would narrow into one or two metrics that they're really going to be held accountable to. And how we understand how that links to each other function within the organization. They understand ahead of time and we actually are in the process of hiring someone right now, how they would interact with this person. So when that person gets on board, they can jump into speed much faster. And we've had success when we have people highly aligned on what someone does, when they're going to come in, what their role and responsibility is, what it is not, et cetera.
Do you ever have them kind of pitch their ideas for how to increase CLV in your business?
For this role, that would certainly be part of the interview process, yeah.
For us, again, we are a small company, so we're looking for young talent and people who like have a little bit of experience, but also have a lot of potential. So for us, for me, is the goal to identify this potential and most importantly, see the cultural fit and most importantly, the view on the business, like similar to what Seth was saying, like, will people understand like a big picture of where the company is going and how all little tasks fit in this CLV increase and retention increase? And we very much ask people to do an exercise on like second or third round and see their ideas and how would they approach the problem solving. And as we are a very fast growing startup, I think one of the most important things is to change in the mentality that all little things. Well, first of all, how it was said on a stage earlier that everything is a testing. So this testing mentality, there is no wrong things. Like you test, you learn from it. Didn't work, okay, we pivot. You know. So this testing mentality, and most importantly, the ownership and understanding that every little thing fits in the overall company's performance. It's either driving traffic or driving conversion or increasing average order size or retaining the customers. It's all. Every action matters basically. So we are looking for that mentality in the, this attitude towards work environment.
I believe we've made it through the time that we have today. So thank you three so much for taking the time to join us. And thank you all for listening in. Enjoy the rest of your day.